Good morning, guys. Again, welcome to our webinar about robotics curriculum integration. Thank you for taking your time to attend this seminar and learn one thing or another from it. No. Uh, First is, we need to start right away kasi medyo limited yung time natin for today. No, we need to start as early as 9 o'clock exactly, and hopefully we can end at 10:30. Okay, so before we start, I want to be clear about the objective of this seminar. So basically, we want to learn what are the concerns, why our schools are hesitant in integrating robotics in their curriculum. Second is we're going to identify what are the skills, what are the competencies, what is the importance of integrating robotics in your curriculum. So we need to learn the importance, no? Hindi lang basta kasi ito yung uso ngayon, most of the school are using robotics as a platform in teaching computer, but we want to see what are the skills, what are the competencies that are involved for us in learning robotics, okay? And then we're going to list down, no, we're going to discuss what are the requirements, no? Given that we already know that we can implement robotics in our curriculum, given that we already know that these are the competencies that we want our students to learn, next thing that we need to identify would be what are the requirements for us to implement robotics in our curriculum. And then lastly, let me just introduce to you what our company can offer in terms of robotics integration in your curriculum. Okay. So as just a sort of history on how I started robotics in our school before, we wanted to integrate robotics in our curriculum for all year level. No, I have attended seminars like this one, a lot of seminars. No, I have attended a lot of seminars on robotics, but mostly what they discuss is about their products, on what they sell, on what the curriculum can offer. No, but in terms of requirements, medyo hindi nila masyadong nadi-discuss. Okay, so I have attended a lot of seminars, and then when we decided that we will be implementing robotics or integrating robotics in our curriculum, one of our main concern was really the cost of the robotics kit. Okay, now what was offered to us is a partnership, no, with a robotic company. The agreement was we're going to pay them around, if I'm not mistaken, that time, no, it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. That time it's about 350 per students per month, and then we're going to get 10% of that, no, as a school profit. And then after 3 years, everything that they will provide, the curriculum, the laboratory, the kit, will be taken back from us. Okay, so basically, 3 taon lang namin pwedeng gamitin yung kits and curriculum nila with that amount of money. So upon computation, it's about around 4 to 5 million that will cost the school. So what I did was I researched, no, as a graduate of computer science, I already have some background in electronics and in programming. So I researched, and then through time, I developed our own curriculum, and that is what is being implemented. Before I have resigned to that school, that was the curriculum that they're implementing so far. No, so it is very competitive in terms of the price of the robotics kit, no, and the competencies. If I that time when I was thinking about it, the competencies that I have prepared, I think would be the same as what the others are offering, no, but this is more affordable. It's not cheap, no, kasi pag sinabi natin na cheap, parang it's low quality. It has the same quality as what you have with other robotics kit, but it's more affordable, no. It's a fraction of a cost. So from time to time, I updated the curriculum every year, year after year. I have updated it, and then one time I questioned myself on, is this really the best curriculum that I can offer for my students, no? And then Arduino came up with, since Arduino is being popular with schools in creating prototypes for their projects, Arduino created a kit intended for the education sector. Kasi dati pang manufacturing lang talaga si Arduino. So gumawa siya ng isang kit na na talagang pang education. And then I was able to review it. I was able to look at the curriculum, and I am proud to say that the way that I have sequenced the curriculum for robotics is the same as what they did in their own curriculum. So halos parehas, no. Magkaiba lang kami ng kit na ginagamit. We have different kit, we have different sensors on every topic, but the way that it is arranged based on the level of difficulty is the same. So I hope I could share one thing or another later about this curriculum that I'm talking about. Okay, but first, of course, we need to know what are the concerns of this. What are the concerns of your teachers? What are the concerns of the schools when it comes in integrating robotics in the curriculum? No, bakit ba sila hesitant? No, every time that I attend a seminar or every time that I conduct a seminar, these are the things that I have collected. No, when I ask them, why are you not implementing robotics? If you think that these are very useful in terms of preparing our students not only for college but also in the real world. So these are their main concerns, no. Number one, of course, it's expensive, no. Na banggit ko na kanina na robotics kits are expensive, no. If I'm not mistaken, there is one kit that will cost a school around 45 to 50,000 per kit. That is per kit. So sadly, what the school will do is that they will buy probably 3 units or 4 units of this. So it's around 200,000, and that 4 units will be allotted for 45 students or 50 students. So imagine how many students will share a single kit. So there's no learning that will happen if you have 6 members in a group, if you have 8 members in a group, if you have 10 members in a group. Walang mangyayari doon sa kit na binili natin, no. Sadly, sometimes school do this just to brag about that they have robotics curriculum or they have robotics being implemented in their school. But when we look at the quality, I don't think that there is a quality when it comes to the distribution of kit to a student if we're talking about 1:10, 1 kit for 10 students. So yung isa doon magpo-program, isa doon mag-assemble, isa doon let's say magche-check, isa doon magdo-document, isa doon will help in everything. Let's say 5 at most, no. If you have 10 members in a group, ano yung gagawin ng natitirang 5? So mga mga joyrider na lang sila. So the number of kit per student is very, very important. It is one key element that will tell us that the robotic curriculum will be successful. Okay? So kit are expensive. Okay? Yung isa na there is one school in Visayas who is asking me about a certain kit that they need for competition. So when I look at the price of the kit for that robotic car alone, that cost them around 6,000. Wala pa yung curriculum, wala pa yung training, no? So talagang expensive ang robotics kit until Arduino came in the picture, especially now in the pandemic. Most school who are using this expensive robotics kit, no, turn to Arduino right now. Okay? And yun nga kasi it's more affordable than the others. Okay? But I'm not talking about the kit being sold by Arduino, no. Hindi siya ganun din kamura pero maganda rin yung kit ni Arduino. Okay? So one concern about robotics curriculum integration is the cost, no. It's expensive, no. I'm sorry, I need to talk fast kasi medyo yun nga yung oras natin are limited. I want to discuss as many topics as possible. Next is more on electronics, no. For if you're doing a prototype on robotics that are considered advanced, talagang merong involved na electronics naman. Hindi mabubuo ang isang robotics prototype without electronics. Okay? So it's more on electronics. It has electronics, but it's not more on electronics, no. I might say that there are 80% on electronics concept, but the remaining 80% will be more concerned on programming. It's about the intelligence that you're going to do to make your robot functions. No, the electronics, mga 20%. Okay, mga 20% lang yung electronics. You need to know, for junior high school and senior high school, you need to know the basic, no? How to compute for the load of the circuit that you're doing. You need to know your Ohm's law. You need to know how to calculate your value of your resistor and so on, no? So, yung electronics dito, konting-konti lang. It's more on the programming. So, ako nga sinasabi ko, with the curriculum that I have developed, robotics is only a tool. No, if you are teaching programming, no, teachers who are teaching in programming, it is like teaching programming, but you are using a tool that is tangible to the student, something that they can hold, something that they could see, something that they can manipulate, making programming more interesting. So for me, with my curriculum, it is hiding programming behind robotics just to make it more interesting. Okay. Next is, it's too technical. Yes. No, of course, when we talk about computer, whatever subject that will be, it is technical for sure. No, when we talk about web page development, when we talk about PHP, when we talk about programming in Java, when we talk about robotics, it's very technical. Now, this part, this side of the story about the concern on robotics integration would fall under the skills of the teacher. No, I've been the computer coordinator for the past I think 10 years. No, and what I always tell my teacher is that, you know, whatever subject will be assigned to you, it is your duty, it is your responsibility to make it non-technical. Okay, sa atin, madaling sabihin eh. Napakasimple lang naman ang konsepto na to, hindi naman magets ng mga estudyante. Simpleng-simple lang. Yes, it is simple for us because we have studied it for 4 years. But these kids are studying it for the first time. So it is our responsibility on how to make this subject non-technical. So I could say that with the one of the most challenging part in doing the curriculum would be conveying a technical subject into a very non-technical way. Next issue is dangerous, of course. No, if we are talking about prototypes, there are times that you want to control, let's say, 220 volts. Okay, so hindi natin basta-basta ginagawa yan as a simple activity. Okay, without the supervision of the teacher. So basically, you need to look at your curriculum if your curriculum are dealing with high voltage current. Okay, kapag high voltage na tayo, we can either look into removing that particular topic on the curriculum, or if you have the guts, you can guide them. No, pero para sa akin, especially now in the new normal that we are not seeing them face to face, I don't think that it is advisable for us to encourage them to do prototypes, to do activities that involves high current, no, high voltage current, no, like 220 volts. Let's say, sige nga, gumawa kayo ng prototype for your research. Gusto namin yung nagto-turn on and off yung ilaw when you control it over Google Assistant, no. I would discourage you to do that, no, kasi medyo delikado. Ano pa yung mga concern? Pero if we talk about the normal activity that we are doing inside the classroom, the normal voltage that we're talking about is only 5 volts, no, coming out from your Arduino microcontroller. So very low voltage na hindi naman magkakos ng sunog yan, hindi naman yan magkakos ng pagsabog, hindi naman yan magkakos ng electrocution. Okay, so all the activities that are that involves robotics in terms of voltage, sa mga nakita ko na mga curriculum naman, wala pa ako nakita na they are dealing with 220 volts so far. Okay, another concern about robotics is the wow and not the why. Okay, so students who are attending right now, if you have robotics in your curriculum, if you don't have robotics in your curriculum, these are the things that you need to consider when you are, if you want to suggest to your professor or school that you want to learn robotics in your school, no. Pero one of the concerns that we have on the robotics curriculum right now is that most schools are on the wow. no? If you present to them something that are moving, something that can be controlled using the internet, no, something that moves, no, the school would probably approve it. No, it's more on the wow, wow, ang galing, wow, gumagalaw, wow, kaya niyang i-pick to, uy, kaya niyang mag-take ng picture, all the wow, no. Seldom that I find a school that scrutinize more on the competencies, no. Robotics is on the why, no. Bakit gumagalaw, bakit tumatalon, bakit umiilaw, okay? Unfortunately, no, there are many robotics company right now that the main selling point of their kit is not the competencies, it's not the why, it's the wow, okay? Wow in terms not only with their kits, wow in terms of the benefits that you're going to get out of it. Like, I'm going to, if you're going to subscribe in our robotics program, we're going to donate one computer laboratory in your school. We'll be giving your teacher a computer laptop. We will be, etong pinakamatindi, we will be sending you to different places, no? Once you avail our robotics kit, no? You will be attending this and that. Robotics right now are being commercialized, sad to say. What do I mean? You cannot join competition if you will not be using the kit that they are offering. Unless otherwise, you buy the kit from them. Ano pa? Wow, it can follow the line. Wow, pwede siyang mag-wrestling with another robot. No, I have nothing against with sumobot and line following competitions. But how I would wish as an educator, how I would wish that competitions are about innovations, no? That we have an open category competition. You can use whatever kit that you have, and we want you to provide prototypes that would upgrade or uplift our situation in terms of education, in terms of communication, in terms of mobility, etc. So how I would wish that there are companies that would sponsor competitions that will push our students, our teachers, our coaches to innovate rather than just follow a line and then just battle between two cars, no? There are more on that than what we are doing in terms of competitions. Kaya with some of the schools that I am attending right now as panel for their research and for thesis, it's sad to say that these students are not ready, no? Either they don't have any idea about it, or even in college they don't offer robotics in their curriculum yet. At the end of the course, they will be asking for them to create prototypes that involves robotics. No, I know it's research, kaya nga sa research eh, 'di ba? Hanapin nila paano gumawa ng ganito ganyan. Yes, I'm good with that. It's research, but at least it's our responsibility as teachers, as mentors, to give them at least the idea. No, sadly, we need to admit as educators that we have that notion na madali lang naman yan eh, no? Na nakita ko sa YouTube yan, ganito lang naman ginawa yan, no? We have that notion, no? Pero magpalit tayo. What if we are in the shoes of the students, no? Na wala silang ka-idea about that. We need to guide them, no? Ako personally, I would not approve any thesis proposal, any research proposal unless otherwise I was able to do it. So ako muna yung gumagawa. Kapag nagawa ko na, then I'm going to approve it. Kasi unless tayo yung gumawa, we cannot tell if that is easy, difficult, or hard, because that is very subjective. We cannot tell that this can be done within 1 month, this can be done within 2 months. So we need to try it on our own or research on our own. Before we approve a topic on research and prototypes, we need to research first on our own. What are the things that are involved? How does these things are being done? That's the only time that we can approve it, because we know that students can be capable of doing so, and the time given to them would be enough. Okay, so these are the concerns that we have on integrating robotics on the curriculum. No, these are legitimate concerns. Actually, these are legitimate concerns. Sabi ko nga, ito yung mga narinig ko throughout time kung bakit hindi sila makapag-integrate ng robotics sa curriculum nila. And number one of that really is the cost of the robotics kit. No. Now, Let's say that I have already convinced you that these concerns can be addressed easily, no? These concerns that you have can be addressed easily. Now, the next thing that might be bothering you is that, yes, I already have the money, I have the technical skills, I have the teachers to implement it, I have already scrutinized the curriculum, and I know that we have good competencies. Now, what is it for our students if we're going to integrate robotics in our curriculum? Number one is your student will develop their communication skills, no? Basically, to speak the languages. Okay? Whether you're going to ask them to explain their sketch, explain their prototypes, no? Sa akin lang, no, since what I do here is that I give some leniency when they speak up, no? Medyo mahirap. Tayo nga, kahit teachers na tayo, natatakot tayong tumayo sa harap ng maraming tao, even if we do that every day. So, merong nervous talaga. So, what I do for my student is that I ask them to explain their report, their sketch, no, their prototypes in English. Yun yung pinaka-common ano natin. And then if there are things that they think that they have not expressed correctly, then I would allow them to speak in Tagalog, no? Para hindi sila kabahan, no? Kailangan lang is ma-build yung confidence nila. Walang tatawa sa akin kapag nagsalita ako, walang mga ngantsaw sa akin, hindi ako pagtatawanan mismo ng teacher ko of speaking the language na hindi ko naman ganun talaga kagaling, no? But at least I want to see that they are trying their best to speak the language, no? Second is they will be sensitized receiver. Ano ibig sabihin sa sensitized receiver? Yung bang isang bigay mo pa lang na instruction, nagigets na kagad nila. You know, because robotics is about logic. It's about thinking of the why. It's about thinking of the how. So basically, when we develop their skills, one way or another, they will become sensitized receiver. No, minsan, you need to be strict on this. Now, for example, I will just be repeating my instruction once. So I want everybody to listen. After that, you have the entire time to do whatever you want to do. Because in robotics, you just need to give them the exercises. You just need to explain to them how it works. And then when it comes to the formative activity and your summative activity, just give them the instruction. And they need to listen very well and understand your instruction well enough that in one reading, they would understand it right away. No, these are soft skills, kung tawagin, no? Soft skills na we are not developing it directly with our activities, but as we do our formative exercises and summative activities, these are the skills that they are developing. No, sensitized receiver. Next is we're going to develop how they collaborate to one another. Okay? Like working together, di ba? Pero eto, kanya-kanya tayong diskarte bilang mga educators, no? Sometimes we want them to be grouped according to their friends. Sometimes we group them according to their class number or surname. Sometimes we ask them to group themselves according to their preferences. Or sometimes we make the grouping for them. However, kahit ano naman yung gawin natin, they have no choice but basically to work together, no, to collaborate, no, to share ideas to one another. Kaya nga sabi ko, as much as possible, we want the number of members per group to be the smallest possible number. Okay? The smallest possible number so that everybody would have the chance to say their piece during, after, and before the prototype has begun. Next is self-dependent, no? This is ito yung parang this is the difference now between the previous robotics curriculum that we have and now that we are practicing the new normal, no? Before, the school owns the robotics kit, no? But since the students are not able to go to school right now, most of the school are giving their own kit, or most of the students are owning their kit para magawa nila yung mga activities nila. Yun nga yung sinasabi ko, that's why most of the schools are now have that transition between their old kit to Arduino right now kasi they cannot afford 43,000 per student. So, dito ako sa much affordable. Okay? Para nang sa ganon, magagawa pa rin nila yung mga activities that they intended to do in their classroom. So, kapag naman sila na yung gumagawa ng activity nila, we are teaching them to be self-dependent. No, wala silang kausap, wala silang ka-collaborate. No, sila lang yung gumagawa sa sarili nila. Now, when you are collaborating, you are also practicing self-dependent. How is that? If something is assigned to you, you have that task to do it on your own. Let's say, for example, tatlo lang kayo sa group. One is your programmer, the other one is the assembler. So basically, if you are being asked to be the programmer, it's a hassle if you will be asking them about the program because they have their own task to do. So ikaw, as programmer, you have the responsibility to do the program on your own. You are being taught on how to be self-dependent. Okay? So it's about communication, it's about collaboration, and third, it's about critical thinking. No? Ito yung pinakamahalaga sa lahat. Kaya nga sabi ko, when you are if you are thinking of implementing a robotics program in your school, do not look at the wow, look at the why, look at the curriculum. No, is the curriculum teaching our student to think more or to think less? Diba? Yung iba kasi ang dadali na no, parang plug and play na lang, plug and play na lang. In the real world, it's not plug and play. So they would learn how to ask question, diba? Na sir, paano to? Sir, paano to? Pero ako may limit ako diyan. May limit ako diyan, no? My challenge to my students is to think critically. And when you ask question, no, more often that you are thinking, it is not critical thinking. It's being dependent. So what I ask them is this. What I challenge them is this. If your question is valid, I'll give you additional points. But if not, you're going to get a deduction, no? Bago pa sila magtanong ng tanong nila, kailangan tanongin muna nila yung sarili nila, is this a valid question? Or is this question already in the lecture that we had? Ang iniiwasan ko kasi dito is yung magtanong sila ng magtanong, pero yung tanong nila, na-discuss ko na pala eh. So, so most of them are hesitant of asking question. In one point, it's a negative reaction, di ba? Pero, at one point, hindi naman ito yung ayoko na magtanong, hindi na lang ako magtatanong. Pag hindi sila nagtanong, if they will not ask question, it is their responsibility now to see how their prototype will work. Diba? So it's about asking question, but before asking question to your teacher, ask it to yourself first. Nandito na ba to sa lecture namin? Na-discuss na ba to? Ito bang question na to is valid? Nandun ba to sa scope ng topic namin, etc. So, if they learn to ask question, it's not just asking the question to the teacher, but asking the question on their own. And that is critical thinking. Think out of the box. Okay? Look at the activities that you are providing to our students. No? If the exercise is almost the same as what you will be doing, then it's a formative. Konti lang naman yung babaguhin mo. But if the exercise that you are doing is outside, no, they will think more. That will be your summative exercise. No, you need to think out of the box. Kaya nga sabi nila sa math, nakakainis minsan. Sorry sa mga math teachers, no, hindi ko favorite yung math dahil ano ba naman yung nagbigay siya ng example ng 1 plus 1. Tapos pagdating sa exam is 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. It's the same concept, but you are giving an opportunity for the students to think out of the box. Why? It's out of the lecture eh. Paano ko kaya gagawin to? The concept is there. No, all you need to do is to think critically on what are the things that you need to do more just to finish the prototype. So critical thinking is learning to ask questions on your own and thinking out of the box and evaluate the data that you have. Of course, when you ask yourself, if you think out of the box, when you come up with a solution, your solution will always be based on the data that you have. No, this data can be your research, this data can be your lecture, this data could be an example, this data can be a previous prototype that you did. So critical thinking is about evaluating everything in the table and outside the table. Okay? So ito yung mga nadidevelop natin sa kanila kung meron tayong robotics sa loob ng curriculum natin. No, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. Of course, creativity. Ito nga yung ina-appeal ko. If there are companies that are listening right now, if you are able individuals or institution who wants to come up with competitions about robotics, I hope that this is one area that we could think of. No, kung hindi lang nagkaroon ng pandemic, we have that plan to do an inter-school competition about innovation. No, not more on the line following and sumo bot. So creativity means new invention, di ba? Ano yung bago? Especially right now that we are on the pandemic, no? Ano yung mga innovations that you can do to help us ease the burden of the pandemic, no? Nandiyan na nung nakaraan taon, nung kasagsagan ng pandemic, nandiyan na yung mga yung automatic sanitizer na hanggang ngayon nasa mga research pa. Nandiyan yung mga pump, no, para doon sa respiratory na nahihirapan huminga. No, marami tayong pwedeng gawin na bago. Okay? I'm not saying that disapprove this proposal when the prototype is already existing. Hindi naman, no. We can still approve existing, kaya nga meron mga recommendations, no. Pero we need to see that there would be enough reasons for us to see that there are innovations out of the existing one. Yun lang naman. Okay? Now, for us to inculcate innovation to our students, ito yung wala tayo minsan. We need to immerse them with new innovations, of course. Makita nila ano na yung bago ngayon. Kasi ang nakikita nila yung luma lang, ibig sabihin nun, akala nila bago na yung naisip nila ngayon. So, I would suggest if you have already robotics in your curriculum, spend some time, no? At least once a meeting or at least before your subject starts or once a month at least, show them latest innovations in robotics. Ano yung mga bagong nade-develop na ngayon, no? In entertainment, in medicine, in engineering, no, mga 3D printers, no? Let's immerse them with the new innovation that involves robotics so that they would know the standard. Alam nila na, uy, eto na pala, dapat malagpasan ko man lang to, or maabot ko man lang yung level neto, or maungusan ko lang kahit one step lang to. Okay, so when we do robotics, even if you have your curriculum already, your module to follow, one way or another, we can always inject creativity on these modules. Flexible thinker, okay? Anong ibig sabihin natin ng flexible thinker? If you have robotics in your curriculum, it will make them think twice, no? Na I am already set that this will be my prototype, these are the features, and then suddenly you introduce a new innovations in terms of robotics. Nakita nila, pwede sila pwede pala to. So they will think twice to integrate something that was not on their original plan just to make it better. Hindi yung close-minded na kagad sila na, ay, eto lang yung gusto kong gawin. No, nothing can stop me with what I want to do. If there are areas that needs to improve, no, they would learn how to do it. They would learn how to value it, no, in robotics because we are teaching them how to be flexible thinkers. Okay? And then, of course, adapt to changes. No, when we are creative, it means that we can adapt to changes. No, ito hindi ko na nailagay, no? Hindi ko na nailagay doon sa mga issues and concerns about integration of robotics in the curriculum. Takot si school into adapting to change. If there's one thing in the world that is consistent, that is change. The only question is, how are you going to accept these changes? So if you are creative, if you are not narrow-minded, sabi nga, kung open-minded ka, you can easily adapt to changes. Uy, hindi, Arduino gagamitin ko dito eh, no? And then suddenly you discover or your teacher introduce Raspberry Pi. Oy, teka, mas capable to, mas bibilis ha. Hindi, Arduino talaga ako. If you can adapt to changes, then you can be considered creative. But if you are narrow-minded, don't expect that your creativity will be developed. Ito lang talaga, ito yung gusto ko eh. Okay? So creativity is about innovation. It's about thinking twice. And when you think twice, it means that you are open to adapt to changes. Okay? So, we already know the concerns that we have in robotics, in implementing the curriculum. We already identified what are the skills, what are the competencies that our students will develop. So, sa pag tinignan natin yung core competencies, kung saan nakabase yung curriculum natin, I hope that the curriculum that you're going to choose are based on these future-ready skills. No, they will be taught on how to communicate. They will be taught on how to collaborate. They will be taught on how to be creative. They will be taught on how to think critically. Etong apat na to. These are the 4 pillars of skills and competencies that your curriculum should have when you decide to implement robotics in your curriculum. Okay? So basically, alam na natin ano yung issues, alam na natin yung competencies, excited na tayo, excited na yung estudyante natin na matuto about robotics, pero teka lang muna, no? Meron tayong mga ilang requirements in implementing robotics in our curriculum. So basically, let's talk about ano yung kailangan ko, no? Because of this seminar, there are already teachers who message me asking of how can they implement robotics curriculum in their schools. Okay? So first and foremost, yung concerns natin at yung competencies na hahanapin nyo sa mga kit na gusto nyong bilhin or program na gusto nyong i-adopt. Now, these are the requirements. Number 1, time. Okay? Ilang beses ba kayong nag-meet sa isang linggo? Ilang oras ba kayong nag-meet sa loob ng isang linggo? Do you have even a slot in your course where you can have robotics as a separate subject? Or are you considering of just integrating robotics with different subjects? Or ano yung level ng school in terms of accreditation para magawa nyo na palitan yung inyong computer subject with robotics. Okay? Kasi kapag level 3 na tayo for the secondary education, no, we have some autonomy in replacing what we offer as long as it is beyond the standard of DepEd. Okay? So, we need to consider the time. Okay? Pag-isipan nyo, will it be a separate subject? Will I be offering this only for a group of students that I will meet after class since we don't have any time to integrate it with other subject or have it as a separate subject? Pwede ko ba na isang subject na to, papalitan ko na yung computer ko ng Microsoft Word, gawin ko ng robotics na digital. Okay? So time is the number 1 requirement. Kung wala kayong time, there's no reason, no? There's no logic for us to proceed. Okay? Hanapan nyo ng oras, hanapan nyo kung kailan nyo imimit yung mga bata, kailan nyo sila tuturuan, and so on. No? I am at one point, in my opinion, no, I'm not into integrating it with other subjects that you are not teaching it at the same time. So parang, kunyari ako yung social study, let's say ako yung TLE teacher, i-integrate ko lang with TLE. Pero iba pa yung, pero hindi ko ituturo. Basta hanap lang kayo saan nyo ipapasok to sa TLE. Dapat, there is a separate time that you teach robotics and integrate it with other subjects. Okay? So subject integration, no, hindi ko alam kung mababanggit ko pa to, pero let me mention this right now. Let's try to, I want to take this opportunity to express this with my fellow educators. Okay? There is a very there is a very good opportunity for us for subject integration. Okay? Yan yung tinatawag natin na horizontal articulation of the curriculum. Let's try to find out on where robotics can be used, especially when it comes to research and project at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year. No, ako bahala sa technicalities, ako magche-check doon sa function niya. English teacher, kayo bahala sa grammar, doon sa format ng report. And then let's say for science, you need to find you create a separate rubrics on how you can find any scientific procedure or scientific concept that was applied, no. Ito yung hinahanap natin na sana mabuo natin, no, from doing projects, no, para isa na lang, no. Next is another requirement will be a robotics kit. Okay, may oras kami, sir. Anong robotics kit yung gagamitin namin, no? Find a robotics kit that will, number one, suit your budget, of course. Okay. Number two, find a robotics kit on where you are sure that you can be given a 24/7, at least a 24/7 technical support. No, based on experience, there are companies who offer these kits, there's this curriculum that after the sales and the teacher need to ask for additional support, additional activities, additional exercises, no show na si company. So make sure na it's not only the robotic kits that you are buying, but that the training that they will provide, the technical support that they're going to give to you. And then look at the robotics kit. Hindi yan pasimplihan, hindi yan padalian. It depends on the level of the grade level on where you will be implementing it. No, for example, yung plug and play lang, plug and play. Ako, I would offer that for grade 7. Plug and play. I will be using Scratch. I will be offering it for grade 4, 5, 6 probably, no. Pero kapag yung ano na, like for example, yung Arduino talaga, Arduino microcontroller, I would offer it for grade 8 to grade 12, no. Look at your robotics kit on how difficult or easy the student will be using it for you to decide on what year level you're going to offer it. No, robotics kit. And of course, napala, sa robotics kit also, you need to consider the availability of the materials, no, lalo na kung masira, no. Gaano ba katagal bago dumating yung bagong sensors na kailangan nyo kung sakali nasira ng bata yung sensors. Especially now, we have some experiences na kahit na-check namin yung sensor, pagdating doon sa bata nasira. So, we need to consider that it will take probably 2 days before we can ship it out, no? Kasi kung available naman sa amin yung mga sensors na meron naman kami niyan, so we can ship it the same day and then the next day marireceive na nila. Yung iba naman kit, they need to order it from China. So, gaano katagal bago ma-replace yung kit, no, or yung sensors na kailangan nyo for the kit? Another requirement is your technological infrastructure. Okay? Eto, let's discuss this in the issue of work from home and study at home. Okay? Ano ba yung computer na ginagamit nila? Do we need i5 computer? What, sir, if I'm only using an i3 computer? Paano kung desktop lang? Paano kung laptop lang? Paano kung cellphone lang ang gamit ko? So you need to consider this when you want to implement robotics in your curriculum, no? Especially now that we are working from home and studying from home. Okay? Pwede ko bang gamitin yung tablet ko para makapag-download ng programs Arduino? Yes, pwede. No, pwede ko bang gamitin tong kit na to para sa laptop ko na 5 years ago na nung nabili ko? Pwede. Okay? Now let's talk about technological infrastructure in relevance into anticipating face-to-face schooling again in next year probably. Okay, anong kailangan ng school? Do we need computers? Syempre. Do we need a room? Syempre. You need a spacious room. Yung iba, sige, pwede na yung computer laboratory as long as you have a space on where they can dismantle, assemble the robotics kit that they have. Okay, yung iba naman ang ginagawa nila is nakapaikot yung computer sa gilid, nasa gitna yung malaking mesa, doon sila nagtatry ng prototype nila. So, you need at least a room, computer, no, and ano pa ba? Power supply. Kailangan yung power supply. There are times that we need to use external power supply in our prototype, so dapat available yan kung saan tayo nag-work or saan tayo gumagawa. Next is the staff training. Okay? So, it boils down on the competencies of the teacher. It boils down on the confidence of the teacher to teach the subject matter. No, as a coordinator, no, there are times that I have assigned a robotics subject to one of my teacher, and the teacher is very hesitant because yung skills na meron siya. So yung skills na yon, syempre manggagaling yon doon sa training na meron tayo. No, how many number of days will be given to us by the company if we avail of the robotics program? No? Ilang araw ba yung training na ibibigay niya? Ano ba yung mga additional support na pwede niyang ibigay sa staff ko? So, very important ito, no? Staff training is not only for teachers, no? Kung medyo well-off yung school, I would advise the school to have an assistant in implementing this program. Mas maganda yung dalawa kayo. Sa science lab, meron teacher, meron lab assistant. So, ganun din dito, sana meron tayong robotic assistant kung meron. So, kasama si assistant, si robotic assistant o whoever will be moving inside the room doon sa training na ibibigay ni teacher. Now, let's say, magaling naman si teacher pero wala akong lab assistant. What can I do? At first, you can assign group leaders, no, that would help you to explain the process, explain the concept on each group. Okay? Now, what I do here is that I meet them at least once a week to explain to them in advance the topic that I will discuss for the following week. Para na sa ganon, as I explain it inside the classroom, they will be reminded of what I have already taught them, and when they go to their own group now, doon pa lang nagkakaroon na sila ng discussion. Okay, so training not only for the teacher, for the assistant of the teacher, and for the group leaders kung kaya. No, so the teacher can do that. The company can also do that. No, if they have some program for it. Next is managing your resources. Okay, sa konsepto ng study at home, paano ba in-arrange or meron ba lalagyan yung mga kit na binili from the company? Now, if we're talking about a school setting, no, if this is a shared kit, how are you going to use your kit from one room to another room? Okay? Mabigat ba? Kailangan ba naka-box tong mga to? No, kailangan ba may mga smaller boxes? Kailangan ba naka-plastic? So you need to know on how you're going to manage your resources, especially if the kit is school-owned. Okay? Paano pa yung managing of resources? You have a class at 10 to 11. And you have another class from 11 to 12, which you will use the same kit. So how are you going to manage your resources? 10 minutes before the time, you ask them to pack up. And then how are you going to put back the kits if these are shared kits? Now, for example, at my case, ang ginagawa ko is I ask them to arrange everything, no, sama-sama yung mga resistors, mga jumper wires, and then I would ask them to line up and then put it on the different boxes, no. Nakalagay ba sa box yung mga kits na ginagamit nyo? Meron ba kayong drawer, no? So you need to know on how you're going to manipulate your kits around the room or to another room. Okay. These are the technicalities, no? These are the technicalities. I need a room, I need a kit, I need time, I need to manage the resources. Now, robotics implementation is not only being dependent on your provider. Okay? If there's one thing that you need to learn in implementing your robotics curriculum is not being dependent on your provider. I would advise you to join online community. Okay? Like, for example, at my case, no, I have several Arduino Facebook page which I joined. Kasi kada magtatanong doon, You read the comments, of course, merong comments na nonsense, pero mas marami yung comments na matututo ka. No? If there's, kunyari, I'm very new with 3D printing. So what I do is, I join different online community about 3D printing and I would know bakit kaya ganito yung turnout ng 3D print ko. So I would ask questions on their group, on this group, and then I would find answers. Okay? So join online community, no? Teachers and students, I would encourage you to join online community because this online community will help you to develop your robotics curriculum more, and also this online community will help you develop your skills more. Okay? And eto, I would advise this to everybody, no, go beyond the curriculum. Okay? Kung eto lang yung binibigay ni curriculum, go beyond it. Okay? 6 na sensors lang yung tinuro ni teacher. I need to do a project, go beyond it. Okay? Wala itong topic na to, pero tingin ko kailangan ng mga estudyante ko na malaman to, then go beyond the curriculum. No? Sadly, there are schools that are adopting books for convenient. Para wala na akong gagawin. Nandiyan na yung lesson plan, nandiyan na yung tuturo ko, everything, no? Seldom that we have our own initiative to go beyond the curriculum. Okay, natapos ko na eh. Now, meron pa akong natitirang time, free time na yan. No, let's maximize the time that we have. No, if we have finished the curriculum early and we don't have anything to do anymore based on the provider have taught us, let's go beyond the curriculum. Okay, there are so many tools that we can use right now, especially that we are online. Okay, so just to recap, we have already discussed the issues, your concerns as teacher, administrators, and even students. No, if you have robotics in your curriculum, if you don't have robotics in your curriculum, these are the issues that we have. Second is, we have identified what are the core competencies, what are the foundation of the competencies that we need to look into when doing the activities in robotics. And then we have discussed now what are the technical requirements of a school to implement robotics. Sa mga estudyante naman, ito yung medyo hahanapin nyo, no? Bakit wala kaming computer tapos magro-robotics kami? Ba't wala kaming work area? Bakit wala kaming online community? No, ito yung mga hahanapin natin. Now, let's say you have already fulfilled everything at this point. Ano naman yung susunod? So, nandiyan na yung kit. Either sa new normal kasi, when we talk about the groupings, no, wala nang groupings eh. Kasi they own their kits na. Okay? Unlike sa school setting, we can have 3 groups. No? Maximum of 3 members per group. Okay? So, for me, the maximum number of members per group would be 3. Ideal is 1:1. Kung medyo well-off yung school, 2:1. The maximum for me is 3:1. Now, let's say, sir, hindi talaga namin kaya yung 3:1. Ano yung maximum number talaga for you? Ako, I would go to 4-5. Sige, pababayaan ko na kayo sa 4-5. Okay? Yung number 4 member of the group, probably, he could be in charge of the documentation. Okay? That in every activity that you're going to do, there are questions that you will be asking them, and this person will be responsible in taking down notes on the process, on how they did the prototype. He is responsible of answering the questions. No, yun nga lang, it's an additional task for us teachers. We need to identify what are the important facts that we need to know when they are doing the activity. Para na sa ganun, may maisulat etong si documentation officer kung tawagin. Yung panglima naman, sabihin na natin na siya yung magre-report sa grupo. Okay? Yung magre-report sa grupo, of course, kung ano yung sinulat ng nag-document, siya yung magre-report niyan sa bigger group. Okay? Now, yung 5 members of the group na sinasabi natin, as much as possible, dapat mag-rotate yung kanilang mga responsibility per activity. Or if you want, per chapter. So if you have 3 chapters, if you have 3 to 5 chapters in a quarter, dapat lahat ng programmer, maging assembler, maging checker, maging documentation officer, maging reporter. Okay? Now, again, however, what I will be discussing is something irrelevant if we're going to talk about the new normal, since we are having the number of student per kit as 1:1, or you are using a simulator. Okay? Now, since we are talking about the robotics kit na, let's talk about simulators. Sir, we have different simulators that are available. Can we use that in teaching robotics since the student cannot afford the robotics kit? Yes, you can. Okay? Ako, ang medyo alam ko lang na simulator is yung Tinkercad. Okay? Now, there are simulators, I think, that are more advanced than Tinkercad. Ano yung disadvantage of using simulators? Number one, nothing beats experience. Nothing beats experience. Ngayon nga lang, ang daming memes na lumalabas, no? Na yung tulay, liku-liko, yung pag-oopera, mali-mali, no? Ang pinatutunguhan ng memes is that if you are doing your classes online. Okay? Same thing as simulators. Iba pa rin yung nahahawakan mo, ikaw yung nagko-connect, umiilaw sa harap mo, rather than simulator. Again, nothing beats hands-on experience. Okay? Pangalawa, you are dependent on the tools that this simulator offers. For example, Tinkercad. No, napakagandang gamitin ng Tinkercad, no? Pero there are some sensor that you might need that is not available on these simulators. Okay? So yun lang naman dalawa. If you can use it, my answer is yes. No? Pero iba pa rin yung meron kang sariling kit. It is an investment. Okay? Not only for this year, no, but for next year and for college. Okay? Balik tayo with robotics kit. Try to find a robotics kit that you think can be useful in the succeeding years. No, like for example, in my case, the digital kit that we will be using for one grade level will be used also on the other year levels. Okay? So hindi nasasayang. Ano pa? Kapag tapos ko na yung digital kit, doon sa analog, I will just upgrade it. I would not buy an entire kit again. I will just buy the kit for analog. Okay? Now, if we have the kits now at hand, paano na gagawin to ng mga estudyante? So these are the groupings or the robotics grouping tasks that we could assign to them. Okay? Now, you can also do this in collaboration with groupings sa kanyang bahay-bahay. So for example, kahit na meron kaming kanya-kanyang kit, I would be asked to design the circuit. Okay? So what I will do is, I will just design the circuit. I will not program it. And then another group member will be creating the program, sending it to the leader of the group, and that program will be the one to be used for this kit. So meron pa rin tayong collaboration, meron pa rin tayong task assignment. Now let's say yung isang member of the group, no, yung checker, habang ina-assemble ko, nakatutok yung camera, then the checker is checking it while I'm doing it. When the programmer is typing the codes, then the checker is looking at it at the same time. So the three members of the group can still function even in the new normal, even if you have different kits na. Okay? So first is you have your programmer. Okay? So the programmer is the one responsible in thinking on how to make the prototype function. Okay? Ngayon, sir, ako yung programmer. Paano naman ako matututong mag-assemble? Pwede mo rin naman i-assemble sa sarili mo. No? Basta mahalaga, yung program mo yung gagamitin ng grupo natin. So, siya yung bahala mag-research ano yung mga codes na kailangan para gumana yung system. The second member of the group will be the assembler. Okay, the main task of the assembler is to get what he needs on the kit and then assemble the prototype. Yun yung pinaka-main function niya. Your main responsibility as an assembler is to make sure that there are no short circuit that will happen. Yun yung pinaka-mahalaga, no short circuit that will happen. Kasi masasayang yung kit nyo. And then lastly would be the checker. So, Maximum of ano talaga, 3 members per group. That is my ideal. 2 or at most 1 sana, 1:1 kung meron kayong budget. No? Ano ginagawa ni checker on a classroom setting, on a face-to-face setting, while the assembler is assembling, you are checking are the connection correct. If you are the checker, you are checking the programmer whether all the syntax are being followed or if there are better codes that can be introduced. And then again, every member of the group should change responsibility every activities that you're going to do. Ito yung ano natin, ito yung ideal assignment for each group member when it comes to groupings on a robotic program inside a classroom setting. Pero kapag kanya-kanyang kit na yan, lahat ng tatlong responsibility niyan, lahat ikaw na ang gagawa. Unless otherwise, teachers, you can be more creative on how to distribute these different tasks to them upon grouping them by 3. Katulad ng sinabi ko kanina. Okay? So, na-surpass na natin yung issues, na identify natin yung competencies, meron na tayo na mga kailangan natin na ini-implement na natin yung robotics program with these different groupings. Okay? So basically, integration of robotics into your curriculum, these are some. No, I'm not saying that this is all that you need, but these are some key concepts that you need to identify, you need to double check before implementing your robotics program in your school. So teachers, administrators, and even students, no, these are the things that you need to look into. You can ask them nicely kung ano yung, or you can suggest to them kung meron kayong nakita na wala doon sa curriculum nyo, no? Now, with the few minutes that we have, no, let me just give you an idea on what we offer for our robotics program. Okay? So currently, we have 4 programs that can be used for 4 different year level. Now, where on what year level can we start? I would say that you can start as early as grade 7. No, if you want to start for the elementary, maybe grade 4 or grade 4, 5, or 6 using another set of kits. No, pero for what we have, no, we have 4 different modules. We have 4 different programs that can be assigned on each year level, either junior high or senior high school. Yung iba, they start with grade 7, introduction to programming, and then they follow it up with another program, and another program. So right now, we have 4 programs that you can use. One is digital signal. Ito yung pinakauna. No? Ito yung pinakamadali. Digital is 1 and 0. Okay? But then again, even if we have different module assigned to each grade level, the approach is spiral. What do you mean by spiral? We will be discussing the same programming structures from one year level to another year level. The only difference is the level of difficulties. Again, we are only hiding, at my point, we are only hiding programming at the back of robotics. So, pinag-aaralan natin yung mga sensor, but it is more on the intelligence, it's more on the critical thinking that they need to develop. So digital signal comes first, followed by analog signal. Analog signal are any values that range from 0 to 1023, the most common. Okay? So, tag 0 and 1 ka, medyo lumaki na yung values na hinahawakan mo. Next is, we have wireless communication. We deal with Bluetooth module. We deal with IR. We deal with radio frequency. No, ito yung nasa wireless communication natin. Okay? And then lastly, we have another module for Internet of Things. Okay? Lahat ng ginamit natin from digital to analog to wireless will try to make use of these components on how we can apply it using Internet of Things. It means that we are gathering data and we are submitting data with the use of the internet to communicate with these different devices wherever you are and whenever you want. No, that is the main concept of Internet of Things. So pwedeng grade 7 digital ako, grade 8 mag-analog ako, grade 9 mag-wireless communication ako, grade 10 mag-Internet of Things ako. Sir, what do you have for grade 11 and 12? If you don't have any program for the junior high school, this can be compressed on your senior high school. One program per quarter, per semester. Kasi sa senior high school, you have your first sem and you have your second semester. Sir, what if we want to apply these 4 programs for junior high school? What would you suggest or what would you offer for our senior high school? For senior high school, I would offer Internet of Things with database. Okay? And then grade 12 will be your research. Now, example of our digital robotics kit, which we improved this year, we had the same component, but this year, we have designed some enclosures, no, to make the use of the kit more accessible and more easy. Ayan. So we have the this is what we have for the digital robotics kit. Now, all of the components here can be used within 1 year. 1 year if you're meeting them at least 3 hours a week. Okay? Now, we can design a program based on the time that you have. Sir, paano kunyari kami, once a week lang kami nagmi-meet and we only meet 2 hours a week or we only meet 1 hour a week. How are we going to implement this? Wala tayong problema kung less than 3 hours kasi you will have more than enough activities, more than enough lectures within 1 year. Now, if you are meeting more than 3 hours a week, then we could design additional activities for you. Okay? Our curriculum is very flexible in terms of the time that you have, especially with the budget that you have. Okay? So, it's not all about making profit, no? The robotics kit that we have, if you have already sent you our previous proposal, we lowered down the cost of our robotics kit because we understand with the new normal, we need to give them each kit per student. So, binabaan pa namin yan. Okay? So, in-improve pa namin with this enclosure. So, this is the servo barrier. May servo yan sa loob. Ito naman yung servo just to show you the concept on how servo works. The servo barrier will be used for some of the activities that we have in the curriculum. You have the LED traffic light. Dati 3 LED yan on the breadboard. So, we have updated it. And then we have 5 volts relay just to give you the concept on how you turn on and off the light. But we don't use in our activity the 220 volts. So 5 volts pa rin para lang makita yung concept on how it works. Kasi most of the research that I have saw, of course gusto nila yung makontrol yung mga 220 volts. So this will be the concept. Practice muna sila dito before they can do the actual one. Now, you have your jumper wires, the male and female, the male and male. You have the fire sensor. It detects any fire with a short distance only. No? And then you have the ultrasonic sensor for distance measuring. The resistors, tactile switch, the LED. Kahit meron tayong traffic light LED, meron pa rin tayong separate na LED for some indicators. So, some might say na we don't need to learn LEDs. These are very simple activities that can be done. But LED plays a very important role in your prototype because it's a visual representation or indicator of what is happening in your prototype. You have the buzzer, no? Para naman sa audio na signal. So, again, resistors. You have the line sensor. So if you intend to make a line following robot, we have an activity, a concept on how to use the line sensor. Yung iba kasi, they use the line sensor in competition, gumagamit na sila sa code na nila na nagkakatalo. No? I forgot kung ano yung code na dina-download na lang nila. No? And of course, you have the breadboard. Okay, so those are what we have on our digital kit. Ito naman yung sample on what we have in our curriculum. So we have the conceptual framework. So these are the topics that will be discussed. For example, on our analog module for gas sensor, these are the 9 items that we will be discussing. Look at the last part, conditional control structure. So it's more on how the student will understand how conditional control structure works. What are the different conditional control structure? When will I use this kind of structure to another? And then you have your learning competencies. These are your learning objectives, no? And all of the learning objectives that we have over here are based on Bloom's taxonomy. You have your time partition, but this will vary depending on the groupings that you have. If you have 1:1, mas mababago yung time allotment natin. Kung you have 3:1, this is the time allotment that we have. If you're meeting 3 hours a week, this is the time allotment that we have. So 1 hour for lecture, give 4 hours for the student to do the formative activity, and then 6 hours for the summative activity. Sir, bakit napakatagal ng formative at saka summative activity? Again, this is based if the kit is school-owned. Kasi sa school-owned, pagkatapos gumamit, baklas. Sa susunod na araw, assemble ulit. Okay? Tapos baklas na naman. Sa susunod na araw, assemble ulit, and so on. So mababago yung time allotment natin, depende doon sa settings ng school ninyo. And then we will just briefly explain, no, that let's say it's about the gas sensor. So we will just briefly explain para saan yung gas sensor. That's it. No, wala nang madami pang cheche-boreche. Direct to the point. It simply detects gas, and what are the gases that it can detect? This and that. That's it. We have sample activity. Ito yung guided, no? Teachers will show on how this will be assembled. Teachers will explain on how the codes work. Sa face-to-face, you will demonstrate on how it works. No, that is a sample activity, and that's it. Okay, that's the guided one. So you have your circuit materials. You have your schematic structure, how the sensor will be connected to the microcontroller. And then you have your circuit diagram on how everything will be connected, including your sensors and devices. And then you have your sketch, okay? Yung pinaka-program. And then you have the formative activity. No, formative activity, as we all know, this is not graded. No, but me, as much as possible, I don't guide them anymore because it's already a preparation for them for the summative activity. No. On the formative activity, materials is also given. The circuit diagram is also given. No? And then for the summative activity, ito talaga hands-off na ako with the summative activity. No? I will just explain on how it works, and then that's it. No? Everything will be dependent on your skills. Okay? And then, of course, the rubric. Okay? So yung rubric, this will be a guide not only for the teachers but also for the students on how they will be graded para alam nila kung kailan sila makaka-perfect points, kailan mawawala yung mga points nila. Okay? Now, that's all about yung yung rubrics natin, no. Konting oras na lang meron ako. Teachers, I would appeal to you, no, if you can try to study this concept, no. I've been applying this concept for the past years. I have the concept of no deadline policy. What do I mean by no deadline policy? It means that you can still get 100 from day one that we did the activity. You can still get 100 on a certain date that I will assign before the end of the quarter. Let's say bukas ako magpapasa ng grade. 3 days before that, that will be the deadline of all the activities that we have done. And everybody will still get 100. Paano nangyayari yon? Remember, we are talking about competencies. Now, each students are different from one another. We will agree to that. Iba-iba yung pacing niyan. Meron yung first day pa lang, kuha niya na kagad, nakapagpa-check na siya. Meron yung 3 days before the deadline, at saka pa lang siya nag-submit, saka pa lang siya natuto. Kasi nga, iba-iba yung pacing nila. Now, why would I give them 100 if the time allotment has already passed? Okay? I would give them 100 because I'm sure they develop the competencies. That is the most important, the competencies that they have learned. Eh di sir, hindi na ako magpapasa on time. Doon na lang ako sa dulo. I will give additional incentive for those who will pass on time. Why? Even if you pass 3 days prior to the deadline of my grades, no, it is not an assurance for you that you will get 100. You will still be graded based on my rubrics. Now, if, for example, you pass on the first day and I have given you additional 5 points, that will compensate any activity that you will get that you pass late no, that you did not get 100 for it. No, at my point, as long as you develop the competencies, you get a perfect score. No? Kasi nape-pressure yung ibang estudyante na kailangan deadline, 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 deadline. Okay? Now, let's move now. So basically, that will be the topics that I'm going to discuss. No, I'm going to give maybe around 5 to 7 minutes for the question and answer. No, you can ask your questions here. You raise your hand. Our moderator will acknowledge you, or you can post your question over our chat. Now, once the 7 minute ends, I would answer your questions once I forward to you your ang tawag dito, your certificate, no? Or if you want to ask me questions later, I'm going to post some information about myself. So let's try to facilitate muna yung question and answer natin. Ayan, sige. Let me just see. 5 to 7 minutes lang. No, you can type your questions. You can send it to me, or you can type your questions over the chat that we have right. I'm looking at the chat right now. No, kasi maaaring hindi lang naman sa inyo yung sa inyo yung question na yon. Baka pag nasagot ko yun, question din na ibang teachers or ng ibang estudyante yon. Come on, guys. You have questions? Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the questions. And then you need to finish.
Alvin,
Yan. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Alvin. Yeah. There's one minor thing, like for advanced level. I think we can discuss after the session, if you're mind. I'm also looking to introduce some Arduino-based build systems.
Yes, sir.
Be happy to discuss it later on.
Yes, sir. Sige, sige po.
We're actually looking for partners too.
Sige, sige, sir. You give me you send me a PM mamaya doon sa sa Messenger, so we can talk about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Students, kung may question kayo. Any question about what you're doing right now or prototypes that you're developing, projects? Yung natin, yung technical part, no? Like for example, sir, wala ba tayong seminar about introduction or just give us a taste on how to program on Arduino? We're already planning about it kasi ang tawag dito, lately lang nag-upgrade kami ng internet connection, no? Kaya hindi kami nagagawa pa ng mga seminars before. Now that we have a stable internet connection, expect that there will be more seminars to come. How can we avail of your book in IoT, sir? For IoT, right now, we don't have yet the book for IoT per Bibal. Okay? The IoT that we have is only offered as a curriculum. So I'm sorry for that, but we're still waiting for my publisher to get in touch with us for the IoT, no? Pero for the digital, analog, signal, and wireless, you can contact Bibal for the book. Okay? Kailan po estimated release ng certificate? No? Give us maybe until Monday. Okay? What Arduino module do you use for IoT? ESP 32 yung gamit namin for IoT, no? Meron bago ngayon, nabasa ako yung Wemos, mas maliit siya. It comes with 3 different version pero hindi ko pa masyado na pag-aaralan. Okay? ESP8266. Yung ESP32 hindi ko masyadong ginagamit kasi minsan kong tinry, ang hirap i-connect with Arduino. Okay? Kasi si Arduino wala siyang Bluetooth capability. Unlike our phones, lahat may Bluetooth capability. Si Arduino wala. So you need a Bluetooth module. So if you want Arduino to connect to the internet, wala siyang ganun capability. So ang gagawin mo, you need a module for that. So you buy an ESP32 module for your Arduino to connect to the internet. Now, why would I do that if I can already have an ESP8266 MCU, the Node MCU, na meron ng microcontroller at capability of connecting to the internet? Almost the same price lang naman sila or cheaper pa. Ayan. Thank you sa mga nag-ask ng questions. Ano pong klaseng Arduino kit pwede for beginners? Okay, merong nabibili sa, kunyari gusto ko lang mag-aral no? Hindi naman ako teacher, hindi naman ako IT, hobbyist lang ako. Saan ako pwede mag-start? I would advise you to start with a digital kit. Okay, we can offer you our digital kit, or if you want, meron sa internet na nabibili yung upgraded kit kung tawagin. Yun nga lang, halo-halo yung mga nandun, no? But it's a good start, a starting kit kasi very affordable, no? Parang nasa 1.7 lang yata yung isa nun. Ang disadvantage lang is you are given a PDF of the sample codes of each of the component, pero unang-una wala kang technical support, no? Hindi ka pwede magtanong ng question. Hindi mo ma-identify ano yung mauna kasi eto even with the curriculum, you start with digital, the easiest one. Okay? The 1 and 0. Let them adapt to the concept of 1 and 0. Let them adapt with the concept of basic programming concept, the sequence control, the conditional control, and the looping control structure. And then after that, mag-shift tayo into analog. Mas pahirapan natin ng konti yung programming concept. Okay? So, yun. We can offer you our digital Arduino kit. You just give us a message later. Ipopost ko yung yung information. No, we can give you assistance on how to use it as well. ESP32 microcontroller will build in low power Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Hindi ko pa nagagamit yung Bluetooth. Yes, it's meron na siyang Wi-Fi pero hindi pa nagagamit yung Bluetooth capability niya. No, with some that I have read, no, it's a little complicated than the regular Bluetooth module. Hindi ko pa nagagamit yung ESP32, yung Bluetooth capability niya. Next is, sir, anong sensor materials for a body sanitation prototype? Kailangan mo lang dyan ng pump, at least yung 12 volts pump. Kailangan mo ng ultrasonic sensor. Kailangan mo ng power supply, no, yung 5 volts power supply. Ano pa ba? Yung sprinkler, the ideal is 0.01, yung pinaka-nozzle niya. Yun lang, no? Kailan, sir, mag-out sa market yung mga books? I think it's already out in the, sa market wala pa sa national, no? But you can contact Bibal on their webpage, no? For the books, no? Digital and analog. Yung wireless, I'm not sure kung meron na, but at my part, it's already done. What module can you suggest for sending, receiving text message? What is the most reliable that is used in the industry? For text message, I'm using SIM800L, no? Ang problema diyan yung power supply, no? Kapag nagbi-blink siya every 5 seconds yata, no? Kasi yung power surge niya, yung pagkuha niya ng power medyo malakas. So hindi rin pwede na gamitin mo yung 5 volts na microcontroller. Kailangan mo ng step down para doon sa power supply ng SIM800L. Now it's may nabibili kay Maker Lab na hindi mo na kailangan lagyan ng capacitor. Yung iba kasi nilalagyan pa nila ng capacitor. Meron bago si Maker Lab na pwede mo na siyang i-connect directly sa 5 volts. No? Pero yung iba na SIM800L, kailangan mo pa ng capacitor. Okay? So, please send me your questions kung hindi ko man na-entertain ngayon. We will just answer it either through text or PM o kaya pag sinenda namin sa inyo yung inyong certificate. Okay? So, let me end this with this quote. The capacity to learn is a gift. Kanya-kanya tayo ng capacity na matuto, 'di ba? Merong mabilis, meron mabagal, kanya-kanya tayo ng pacing para matuto. And at first, we have nothing to do with that because it is a gift from God. The ability to learn is a skill. Ito lang yung capacity ko to learn, ito lang yung capacity ko to learn, ito lang yung capacity ko to learn, pero my ability to expand it, to learn more, it is a skill that I can develop time and time again. Okay? And of course, your willingness to learn is a choice. Like now that you are attending this seminar, no, whether this is because it's free, it's a requirement, you want to learn, whatever learning takeaways that you get from the start until now, it is your choice. And thank you for choosing to learn today. If you have any more questions, you can contact me on the following. This is my, if I could assist you more in developing a curriculum for your school, providing you your robotics curriculum and kits, helping you with something, these are the information that you will be needing para makontak ako. Okay, again, thank you so much and I hope to see you with um, our other seminars or webinars to come. Okay, thank you again and God bless us all.